to 19(1)(c).
Oh, we understand your argument.
Please.
We sum it up.
Great.
25(2)(b).
My lords, to take a look at
You
this.
can't just piecemeal, you can go into the other thing,
My
you
lords
can't
is
go to
correct.
this.
My lords is 100% right on
Yes.
that, which is why let me not join issue with my lords on the point. But in the garb of doing so, you will not venture into the realm of 26 because there are only 3 permissible lenses permitted for 26. Morality.
Are more generic and is 25.
I have a slightly different approach to it. Can I request my lords to kindly indulge this argument? I could be wrong, but nevertheless, let me canvass and ventilate what I think. Third, religious denomination as used in Article 26 is a reference to any religious association of people held by a common belief. The exalted requirements cast by Shirur Math do not apply, and no declaration is needed to enjoy rights under Article 26, since it is seen as a manifestation and corollary of rights under Article 25. Since there is no definition for religious denomination in the Constitution, nor is there a separate identification of rights for non-denominational institutions, it means that Article 26 was meant to cover collective rights of religious associations. Kindly see the last 4 lines. Simply put, Article 26 is another form of 19(1)(c), but applied in a religious context. This is also evident from the similarity and limitations applied to 19(1)(c).
Oh, we understand your argument.
Please.
We sum it up.
Great.
25(2)(b) will be applicable to the persons,
I'm so grateful.
but on the contrary, it will not apply to the religious denomination.
Please.
Right?
Grateful. I'm so grateful. There's one additional point on that. Can I request the bench to kindly take a look at 26?
What if the persons are all members of religious denomination?
I'll just come to that. Kindly take a look at Article 26. I'm making a.
How do you give effect to it?
I'm so sorry, Mel.
How do you give effect to it? You're asking.
Can
How do you give effect to this? If your argument is accepted,
please,
if 100% join together
please,
and create a religious denomination,
please.
if your argument, it will apply to 100 of them individually, but it will not apply to the institution.
That's why I wanted to show one nuance from Article 26. Could my lords kindly have the provision before my lords for a moment? This is a middle path.
Yes.
So this is for my lords to consider that denominational rights cannot be elevated to the status of minority rights. That's not necessary. That equation I have to disagree with. And therefore, in that sense,
So we take it in so far as the religious denomination are concerned.
please,
There is no question of application of
Shirur Math.
social reform or social welfare.
No, I won't make
Because
the.
we're asking
I'll
you because you are pitching it so high because
I'll
we have to ask less.
I'll
Suppose you can't, state cannot go into that line at all.
In fact, my lords, can I make the submission?
Yes.
On the position that Article 17 has become part of the corpus of public morality, I'm entirely with Mr. Gopal Shankar Narayanan. That question cannot be run away from under any circumstances. The second point for my lords to consider is, kindly take a look at Article 26 just for a moment along with me. It is not as if 26 has no limitations whatsoever. It is not as if the state has no power whatsoever with respect to rights under 26. So there are 2 approaches. I'd only request my lords to kindly be patient with me because I'm building 2 arguments which will address my lord's question. 1, public order, morality, and health literally are, in my humble submission, are like Akshay Patras. They are so broad and huge and wide enough that any concern that the state may have with respect to, let's say, some kind of social justice reform is capable of being accommodated within 26 without having to come through 25(2). And this is retaining the consistency of the argument, which is 26 need not be affected by 25(2). That does not, I'm sorry, not such a question.
Constitutional limitation under 25(1). 26, it limits your the right to practice, profess, and then you see, subject to public order.
I'll come to that.
To that extent, you can say public order or morality and health.
Please.
Insofar as your right to administer
I'm
and
grateful.
manage a property, to that extent it will come.
I'm grateful. So can I just request my lords to take a look at
You
this?
can't just piecemeal, you can go into the other thing,
My
you
lords
can
is
go to
correct.
this.
My lords is 100% right on that, which is why let me not join issue with my lords on the point. Let me just explain where I'm coming from on this point. My point is 26A, B, C, and D. So a denomination has rights both under 25 and 26. It's not as if denomination does not have rights under 25 because it says person. State Trading Corporation 6-1 judgment of this Honorable Court clearly says person includes a body of people, body corporate, including companies for that matter. because a distinction has been struck between citizen and person. Second, rights under 25(1) of the denomination are different from the rights of the very same denomination under 26. So what I'm trying to submit is 25 addresses a different basket of rights. 26 addresses a different basket of rights of the very same denomination, which means kindly take a look at A, B, C, and D. Let me just explain this argument from my perspective.
See, one way, before you do that, 26B is in matters of religion,
I'm so grateful.
but 25(2)B is with regard to social welfare and reform.
I'm grateful. That's the point.
Distinction.
Distinction has to be drawn. Therefore, I'm trying to make the submission.
In
that
the
the-
guise of making social welfare or
You
reform,
can't affect 26B.
can't encroach upon matters of religion.
I'm so grateful. So my submission would be, kindly think of religious denomination as this branch which enjoys two sets of rights. One set of rights falls under 25(1), another set of rights falls under 26. You can certainly affect 25(1) rights because that's what 25(2) permits. But in the garb of doing so, you will not venture into the realm of 26 because there are only three permissible lenses permitted for 26: morality, order, and health.
What Dr. Singhvi also argued.
I am grateful. The difference is Dr. Singhvi's argument connects 25(2) with 26. I am saying you don't need to go down that path as far as 26 is concerned, because if you can delineate the scope of rights between 25 and 26, this neither here nor there argument, my apologies, I have to use the biblical term dog in the manger, that argument cannot be used, or that kind of an approach cannot be had where you sail in both boats. In my humble submission,
You will require judicial review then. You'll have to come to court to say my right under 26B is affected.
Please.
In the garb of making
25.
it now under 25(2)B.
I am so grateful.
Then you have to come to court.
I have to come to court. Therefore,
But
I agree. State action is amenable to judicial review. I stand by that position. That's what my written submission says as much. In any way. In fact, I have some answers even to the questions that were raised by the other members of the bench. Let me just answer this question.
So, Mr. Deepak,
Please, Milords, please.
if this interpretation is accepted,
Please.
that the affairs relating to matters of religion
Yes.
and the right to profess, practice, propagate religion
Yes.
are basically a subset, affairs of religion in the bigger set of rights.
In the universal sense.
So you yield to the argument, essential religious practice is what is relatable to 26B, whereas other religious activities are more generic and is 25.
I have a slightly different approach to it. Can I request my lords to kindly indulge this argument? I could be wrong, but nevertheless, let me canvass and ventilate what I think is the position.
Because you are now diverting from 25 to A, secular activity
I get
and
it.
religious activity in complete different
I'm with my...
modes. You are mirroring 26B
Right.
against the bigger canvas of 25(1).
Please.
And in this situation, whenever a social reform legislation comes into being,
Please.
or whenever any exercise is undertaken to test
Right.
the matters of religion under 25B,
Right.
the court will be entitled to look into the essentiality, or as it is said, integrality, so that there is no hollowing out of that religion.
I'm so grateful.
This is one.
Please. I'm so...
Secondly,
Yes, make
please also consider the interesting difference after Dr. Ambedkar
Yes.
brought in the idea of association, religious association.
Please.
The word association was not used,
Correct.
but denomination was used
Yes.
in inspiration from Article 44 of the Irish Constitution.
Please.
So denomination needs to be given a more contextual interpretation than association under 19(1)(c).
Can I respond in the